You are listening to the Little Psychic Podcast with June Mack, which was formerly known as the Fully Woo Podcast. I hope you enjoy. Hi there, I'm your host June Mack, and you're listening to the Fully Woo Podcast. I'll be talking about all the fun woo-woo things in a down-to-earth, bright, light-hearted and easy to navigate way. Hopefully, I'll be able to help you ignite and light the way on your own spiritual journey and evolution too. In today's episode 10 of the Fully Woo podcast, I talk about how sometimes the doorway to spirit isn't always simple. It sometimes can feel overwhelming, a tad scary, especially when we don't know what to expect, and it can sometimes all get a bit much. Things I sometimes hear people say: the spirit world is too loud, I can't handle this, I want it to slow down, I'm going to shut this down, or I need it to shut down. Many don't realize we actually have so much say in exactly what we will tolerate experiencing, and that we do have control of exactly how we will accept our encounters with spirit. So how do we set our boundaries and make sure that your spiritual journey is as enjoyable, joyous, and as beautiful as can be? We'll dive into my understanding of this during episode 10. Hope you enjoy. This episode is brought to you by the Light Seeker Circle. The Light Seeker Circle is your spiritual learning library and psychic development space, a membership which brings you community, new content and live readings every single month, plus a woo-woo development archive of spiritual content which is already in there and ready to watch instantly. Masterclasses, meditations, activations and programs on intuition, mediumship, card reading, empath and energy maintenance, plus so much more. Lower price point, no lock-ins. Check out the Light Seekers Circle via junemac.com/programs. Hello, and welcome to episode 10 of the Fully Woo podcast. I am your host, June Mack, psychic and energy healer, psychic development teacher, and your intuition igniter. It's been a hot minute if you've been following these podcasts live. You might have noticed it's taken me a little bit longer than usual in between episodes. I've had like a really busy month, the past month in the best way possible, and I'm really just getting some time to come back to recording episodes now. So it actually feels really, really good to be back in my active wear, being able to speak and no one can actually see me. If you don't follow these live, you probably don't really care. So I should probably just get on with it. Today's podcast episode is a topic that I actually have been debating for quite a while as to whether I should speak about it or not. The topic is setting boundaries with spirit. And the reason why I debated whether I should talk about it or not is because sometimes people don't think about this side of light work or this side of connecting with spirit. And that's probably actually a really good thing that you've never thought about. The possibility that sometimes it can get a bit much, or things can happen a little bit fast, or some things that happen might give you a little bit of a fright. And that's a good thing, because I honestly believe that the more you think about something or the more you worry about something, then you're more likely to manifest it. So I am a strong believer in what you fear or think about or worry about too much, sometimes then it actually happens. But if you don't want to put any of these ideas in your head, or you haven't already had any thoughts about any of that type of stuff in regards to connecting with spirit, that's probably a great thing and a great mindset to have. But before you listen, I guess the important message is to know that your spirit guides, your gatekeeper, are strong. They are actually always working for you and with you. They only want the best for you. Literally, that is their sole purpose, your spirit team. is to help you navigate this lifetime. There is no need to be afraid of spirit. But the reason I did decide that it probably was important to speak about is because many light workers who do come to work with me, or many people who want to open up their intuitive abilities during my mentoring, they may have had their abilities for a really long time and just never knew how to actually manage them. There are some that I deal with who have had experiences in the past and purposely shut things down because it felt just too noisy for them, just too much, too overwhelming, too many messages, not being able to understand what was coming through, not being able to filter how many voices or how many messages were coming through. Things happened possibly that they weren't comfortable with. And then also vice versa. I've also had some clients recently who have just started on their own personal journey to open up their abilities, and they do this on their own, or it starts happening on its own, because that's what happens sometimes. Like when spirit thinks you're ready, it just all of a sudden, or when you feel like you're ready, it can just start happening. And then when it starts happening, if they don't have the proper support, then they regret it because they're like, oh my gosh, this is too much, this is too fast, and I don't like it. And then they go, nope, don't want it anymore. And then they go to shut it down or turn it off. That's it. Especially recently, after thinking about talking about this, so I literally had the drop in because I don't plan out all of my podcast episodes. I literally just go with, usually it's an intuitive download that comes in, like you need to, this is what you're going to speak about, or this is going to be fun. And then I've thought about this for quite a while, but then I keep pushing it away. And then recently I've then had more people come to me asking for my help in regards to this. Like they've opened it up on their own and then they're like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? I don't know what to do with this. This is scary. So, and it doesn't have to be scary. So that's my point, is that for me, because I got the help when I needed it, it has been the best experience of my life. Completely changed everything. I know I speak about that all the time. I couldn't regret any of it. It's just been absolutely enlightening, beautiful, soul-changing, all of the above, all of the good things. But I think that was my sign that this needed to be out there. Before I get into it, I'm not talking about dark entities or negative energies in this episode. None of that. This is an area I'm not familiar with and not a thing that I really like to talk about, to be honest, because I'm just one of those people who is like, yeah, you think about it too much, you worry about it too much, you'll probably manifest that stuff in. So I honestly just believe that my spirit team are strong enough that I don't have to deal with that. My intentions are always pure and coming from love and light, so I believe that is what I draw in. So I'm not talking about that. But not saying that they don't exist. There's light and dark in every part of life. That's just a known thing. It's just I prefer to send my awareness to more of the lovely jubbly side because that's just me. And previously, I personally have not had to deal with anything like that. So I guess I have just become so strong in my boundaries and my protection. And I use Archangel Michael. I use my gatekeeper for my protection. Anytime I alter my state of consciousness, I put myself, or I just ask Archangel Michael, because he's the master protector, but you can use whoever you like as long as they're from love and light, your own spirit guides, your gatekeeper, which is your protector spirit guide, to put me in a protective bubble so that I will only encounter beings that are of my highest good and are of love and light, basically. So in short terms. So I guess for anyone who might be one of those people who have shut down their own ability, so maybe something happened to you when you were a kid, or maybe you had a whole lot of things happen, like sometime you might have been a child and then woke up and grandpa was sitting at the end of the bed, which, grandpa who's passed, not like an alive grandpa. And And you might have thought that that was a bit scary and you just decided like, oh my goodness, no, I never want this to happen again. And you've purposely shut it down. Or maybe a part of you feels interested, or maybe there's a path for you somehow that's started opening up to intuitive gifts, or you intuitively feel drawn to this subject, but you are a little bit nervous. I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be afraid. Being a little, nervous is fine, but it doesn't have to be a scary experience. Opening up to spirit for me is beautiful and peaceful and magical and giving me a contentfulness and happiness that I know I never would have reached if it was not for this path. I was always one of those people or kids who had their head in a book, loved reading, loved writing, loved reading about magical places and experiences, and loved writing stories along similar ideas. And now I don't have to read a book. Well, I do still read, but I can experience these amazing magical places on my own and through spirit. And it's just, my life feels full. I feel better equipped and more accepting as well when, stuff does hit the fan, because that does happen, in our life. That's why we're here. We have to go through the good and the bad. And it 100%, this spiritual path has made me a better person, a better mother, a better partner, a better friend. For those who were there for me. And I have found my soul tribe. I do believe, there's many people who I've come into contact with who the connection feels like soul connection. It feels really great and they accept me for who I am. So for those who are struggling still to find this side of spirituality and not understanding why maybe it doesn't feel like this, or it doesn't feel the same for them, say you dipped your toe in and then you freaked out, or, you've shut things down. The reason why I do believe that it feels this way for me is because I have created very strict boundaries with my spirit team as to what I will and won't accept. So remember, they're here to work for us. They don't have a human ego. So when we are like, hey, I didn't like that, can you please make sure that I don't experience it in that way again? They're not going to be offended. They're not human. They don't understand sometimes that that's not a usual experience for us, and it might be too much. They don't ever want to scare us. They don't mean to. We need to let them know it is a two-way street. That we can communicate with them and they will do their best to oblige always. They are amazing. I'm constantly adjusting and tweaking my requests with them as I grow as an intuitive as well. So what I mean by this, I guess, is that I do understand what people mean when they say the spiritual world is too loud. And I've had a lot of people say that, they shut it down because there's just too much noise. And what they probably mean by that, or my interpretation of that, is your clairaudience or your psychic sense of hearing is something that you might hear voices. I don't hear them in my own voice, or have ideas or words. Often that's how it is experienced for me. Some people experience in other spirit voices. And an example for me of how it worked and when it was feeling very loud for me was when I fully opened up for readings and I started doing readings. And what actually happened was, when I started doing readings, I would have someone coming up, for a reading or for a session. And I would start to get information for them days before the reading. So you can imagine, days before the reading, I would, get, this person's going through this. We might give them a name. Zoe's going through this. Zoe needs help with this. This is the reason why she's come to you. Zoe's grandmother's here. Zoe's having relationship issues. Zoe has self-confident issues. This random fact about Zoe, she can bend her leg up behind her ear. I'm not even joking. That literally has come up before prior to a reading. And I was like, is this for real? Is this serious? And when I asked her, it actually was. It was actually a thing. She was very flexible, which I don't know why Spirit gave that to me, but they did. Coming up days before the reading, so then the reading happens and I relay all the information and then more comes through during the actual reading. And then after the reading, I was still receiving messages. Can you just tell Zoe one more thing? You didn't reiterate this well enough. Please reiterate this message. Please make sure she knows she's not alone. Please make sure that she knows that we're around her all the time. We can support. She can do it. Tell her again. Literally, I would go downstairs to be with my family, be making, dinner for the kids or something. And these messages are still coming through. And then I would feel bad for not passing them on. So I would I used to leave contact open for 24 hours after a reading so that I could continue to send messages through that were coming through, which, I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. But sometimes 2 days later, I was still getting stuff for Zoe. And then by then I'd had another reading. So I've got stuff for Zoe coming through. I've got stuff for Bob coming through, who's got a reading tomorrow. And I was completely energetically drained. It was way too much information. I started to get muddled up as what was coming through for who. I was tired. And there is something about being energetically drained, which is totally different to being physically drained. So I used to work in retail, running around on your feet all day. I used to manage a really large store. I think it was like 2,400 square meters. I don't know if that's a thing. It was something. I'm really bad with sizing. And running around all over the place, managing people and da-da-da. By the end of the day, I was super physically tired. But being energetically drained, because this takes energy, this work takes energy from you in a different way, is the most exhausting thing I have ever experienced. There were days that I could not get out of bed. It feels totally different to anything else that I felt before. It emotionally drains you, it physically drains you, energetically drains you. I actually ended up, on my bum quite a few times before I actually learned how to set boundaries, before I actually learned that your energy intake, so what you are receiving for something, should actually match your outtake. So as I do believe I am an empath, I am one who's typical to overgive always. And I'm still learning how to receive. When people try to offer me help, when people say, you've given me so much already, that's too much, you don't need to do any more, I always overextend, which I'm still learning that. And it's something that it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you have to set boundaries. So I'm just talking now in life in general too. It means that you're taking care of your own energetic state, and you can still be a giving, amazing, beautiful person and give to other people, but make sure that you're in relationships or set boundaries in relationships that you also receive something, lovely friendship or whatever in return to. But anyway, so that is one of my examples. That's just my experience of what I believe when it feels too noisy. And I have had people or clients tell me that at nighttime, they can't stop the voices. They just keep coming through, especially at nighttime, because, your analytical brain's turned off and it's just talking, or messages all night. I was overwhelmed to the point where I was, I had a bit of anxiety. I also was receiving downloads or ideas from my spirit team, which were like, okay, for your business, now you've got to do this. And then you've got to, release this program. But here's a new idea for another program after that. And then this is a membership you need to start. And all these ideas were coming through because once you're open, you're open. And I was so overwhelmed. Like, how do I achieve all of this? And the thing is, sometimes spirit forget that you are actually human and that you can't physically achieve all of the things that they've given to you. You need to remind them. So how I set boundaries was for readings or talking to spirit. I learned how to say no. So it's so simple. You can say, okay, literally what I do now before a reading is maybe half an hour before the reading, sometimes only 10 minutes, depends on how much time I have, or whenever I feel like it, I will say, okay, I am opening up to Spirit now, and any information that you would like to give me about Bob. Bob's coming up for a reading. And then I will allow the information to come in. And I have made it super clear with my Spirit team that only before a reading or during a reading, that is when it's okay for them to give me messages about the person coming up. And how I did this and made it super clear was I also write down my boundaries with Spirit, because inside your head, sometimes not everything is clear. Like, yes, they kind of know, they know what you're thinking. But if you're inside your head, and this is the same for manifesting, right? So say you are manifesting your perfect dream house. In your head, when you think of your perfect dream house, you're like, okay, so it's got a huge garden, but I don't want it to be too big. And I want it to have flowers, but not this color flowers. Or maybe I do like that color flowers. And you kind of go round and round in your head and it's not super clear. And your Spirit team are like, oh my goodness, how are we supposed to help her manifest this if she's not clear exactly what she wants? So when I was doing readings, Spirit were always telling me, tell them to write it down. We can help them manifest it if it's super clear, because it's like a written contract. It is the same for you when you are setting boundaries with your Spirit team. Write it out, exactly what you will and exactly what you won't expect from your Spirit team. And then there is no ifs or buts about it. So I literally have written out, I will only accept, information about readings during this time. And I cannot tell you the relief that I felt. And maybe sometimes they'll overstep the boundary a little and they'll just be like, are you sure? Here's a little bit of info. And what you need to do is just no, thank you, but I've made it very clear I'm not accepting information for Bob at this time. And sometimes it takes up to 2 weeks of saying no to a particular thing before it goes away. And then it doesn't, and then that's it. Sometimes, other times, most of the time actually for me, it's just once and they're like, oh, okay, we won't do that anymore. My Spirit team have been amazing at that. And in regards to for getting ideas or downloads for business or things ideas that they want me to take shape. Like, for example, I've just started my first in-person psychic circle, and I've been wanting to do that for so long, and there's been so many ideas I feel that are, ideas or downloads from my Spirit team in regards to what you can do and how to teach people. And sometimes if I get too many, and I always try to write them out, so that helps you is if you get it out of your head and put it onto paper, then they know, yep, you've received this idea, acknowledged. That sometimes can help it to slow it down, because they're like, are you listening? Like, you haven't done it yet. Are you sure? Let me just talk about it again. So if you continue to get the same idea over and over again, because there's a lot of people that talk about, how do I know if this is an intuitive download or whether it's in my head? If it keeps coming through, it's probably an intuitive download. Even if it feels scary, they want you to do it, or it's something that you're meant to do for some reason. So that was me with the psychic circle, months and months and months. The idea, I've been wanting to do it for ages. I just couldn't get around to it because of all the other ideas that were coming through. And then also having to work actually in your business, I get to do my work as well. So there have been times where there's been too much coming through, and I literally have had to say to them, thank you so much for these amazing ideas. I will get to them as soon as I can, but can you please just put a halt on it for now? This is way more than I can possibly humanly achieve in this amount of time. So enough for now. Give me a break. When I've achieved these, then some more can come through. Or if you've got, while I'm actually executing these things, if you've got tips on it or how I can make it better, of course, send that information through. And I guess why this is needed for Spirit, and that this is just my perspective and my understanding. Like I said, I'm a simpleton with a lot of different things. They're not human. They don't understand boundaries like us humans do. Like if someone's really close in your face and they're too much, you say, oh, excuse me, I can smell your breath. Can you please step back a little bit? If you don't tell them, they think they are helping not humans. And they want you to be the best that you can be and to achieve as much as what you can in your lifetime. They are here to help you achieve your soul purpose, your life purpose, and they will push you and they will give you all the info they can cram in if you are open to it. So if you cannot possibly achieve all of this, they see the best you. They don't understand overwhelm. They don't feel fear. So they will just, occasionally give you things if you don't tell them to stop, or I didn't like that. How I experienced that. Next time, can we maybe experience this way? And I've had these experiences where I have, been a little bit scared. The first time I received a really big healing, and it was just an online healing. And what actually happened was it was something to do with letting go of your fears around stepping into the spiritual space. And it was very powerful. And the facilitator literally said, okay, so we're going to, spend all the time loading it up. Let's put all your fears inside this box. And your spirit team is going to take the box from you and it's going to release all your fears now. And literally, as soon as she said now, this clicking feeling happened in my head. That's the best way I can explain it. And it was like this big release, I guess, of all the fears. And I felt like my body was actually elevating. I felt like my legs were coming off the ground and that my spirit was almost kind of coming out of my body. And I was so new to the spiritual world at this point. This scared the absolute crap out of me. And I was like moving my body around, opening my eyes, going, oh my gosh, get back in my body. I don't know what just happened. What was that electric feeling in my head? It was almost like a static electricity, like shock, but in my brain. And yeah, I was like, I felt actually amazing afterwards, but I was thinking to myself, wow, that was too much. That really, I don't know if I could do that again. And the thing is, the next time I went into a healing visualization, I said to them, okay, please go super easy on me with this one. And they did. So what actually happened was it was a Meet Your Spirit Guides meditation, which I have one of those, by the way. If you haven't listened to it via my YouTube, I've had some really great feedback. It's my number one listen to, Meet Your Spirit Guide meditation on YouTube. Just throwing a plug in there. It's free. And when I did my first Meet Your Spirit Guide visualization, I was thinking, gosh, if I see like something weird or trippy, I don't know if I can handle, doing this work. If I feel like I'm elevating off the ground, like I'm done, like this is enough. So what actually happened in that Meet Your Spirit Guides visualization, the spirit guide that stepped forward was actually my dad's uncle who had passed. And he was a spirit guide that came in because he was familiar. I knew of him. He was a human and it was a very gentle experience for me. And I was like, thank you, spirit team, you listened. So they never mean to scare you. Sometimes we just aren't used to these experiences because that's not an everyday, experience, feeling like you're elevating off the ground. Know that you can tell them if you don't want that to happen again, you just tell them you don't want it to happen again and it won't. Anytime you can tell them to slow down. If the information is too much, at any time you can tell them, I don't wish to experience it in that way at this point. Please, that's enough. Sometimes then they go in the other direction, I've found, and then nothing happens to you for a while. So I've told them to go easy. Sometimes there's this exercise called mirror gazing where you literally, it's like a form of meditation and you look at yourself in the mirror and sometimes trippy things happen. And I've sometimes said, go easy. And then nothing happens. And I'm like, oh. And then you get a little bit sad and they give you a little bit of a break and you're like, come back. I'm ready for the trippy stuff again now. And they're like, no. We'll give you a little break for a bit and then we'll come back. So an example actually, which I'm not sure if I've told this story on my podcast, but whatever, I'm going to tell it again. I always forget. I know I say that all the time where I've regurgitated information, but one of my favorite stories from one of my clients who, I don't know why he did it, but he was going through psychic development with me, and he actually is a great medium, right? He said, if there's any spirits out there that need help, I'm open. Come to me. Honestly, please don't do that. This was not my advice. He's just a very giving person and thought, if spirits need help, they should be able to receive help just like humans can. And that night, because he said it's okay, there's a man next to him in bed in like a leather jacket looking at him, obviously there because he said, hey, if any spirits need help, come here. And it scared the bejesus out of him. So he was like, go away, go away, go away. Didn't want to see it. Anyway, the man disappeared, and in the morning he felt bad, and he was like, oh man, this spirit came to me because he needed help, and I freaked out, and I told him to go away, and now I feel awful, which you don't have to, by the way, but he did. And so he said, okay, you can come back, but it was just a bit scary. Please, go easier on me next time. And what actually happened was the next night, he saw the same black jacket, felt the same presence, like it felt the same. It didn't feel anything negative. It just felt like a man. And when he looked up at the man in the leather jacket, he'd changed his face into a baby's face. So as in trying to be not as intimidating and probably thinking, hey, babies are cute and not scary. I'll come back and I won't freak him out because I'll be, aggressive looking with this baby face. And then this obviously freaked him out even more because he's like, there's a man in a leather jacket now with a baby face. But that's just a funny example that stuck in my head of how they're trying, right? Like they tried. He's trying to set his boundaries, tried not to freak him out. Anyway, from then on, he set his boundaries that no visitations, at nighttime or random spirits. That's my boundaries that I have with my spirit team. I don't accept randoms. I will only accept, I guess, if they're there, for a client that's coming up. I don't want any random visitations. Thank you. Otherwise, it's going to happen all the time and you're going to end up drained as well. So I, at one point, also said, so sometimes you can make boundaries or you can say things that you're ready for, what you will accept, and then you might change your mind. And actually, that's okay too, if you know that. I did actually say to me at one point, so I see things, I'm a clairvoyant that sees things in my mind's eye, so the same place where you would see your imagination, and I don't usually see them in physical form with my human eyes. I have sometimes, usually in between asleep and awake. It happens a lot to me at nighttime. But I actually said, okay, I think I'm going to be one of those people who's fine to see things physically. And I said, I'm happy to see spirit physically in front of me now. And again, similar to my client story, that night, a little boy was on the stairs. So this is obviously before my boundary setting of no randoms or no random spirits, please. And there was a little boy on my stairs. I actually heard with my clairaudience, so psychic sense of hearing, I also heard the stairs creak. So I knew he was there and I closed my eyes and then I shut my eyes and then I still heard the stairs creak, and the stairs don't creak unless someone's standing on them. And straight away I'm cuddling up to my husband going, I changed my mind. I do not want to see anything physically. I actually can't deal with this. I'm so sorry, but this has made me afraid. Please go away. And then I remember, I'm pretty sure he was gone because, I said to my spirit team, please send him to somebody else who can help him. And that's generally what I do. And that's what you don't need to feel bad about. If there's someone there that can help, the spirit that's come, send them to somebody else who can help them. Or please, send him some spirit guides who can come and, help him with whatever it is that he needs. And I said that, and I really need to go to the bathroom. Remember, I was busting and I was too scared to go down the stairs to the toilet because I knew he was gone, but I was just still scared that he was there. So anyway, since then, I see things still in my mind's eye, and I'm okay with that now. But most of the experiences or the most profound things that have kind of happened to me recently have happened to me with my dad, because I guess my spirit team know that I'm not afraid of him, or he knows that I'm not afraid of him, or he's not going to freak me out. So some crazy, I've seen him in bed, I was in bed and felt him next to me, and knew he was there. And it was after I had a dream where he was just hugging me, and I woke up and I could feel his presence next to me. I knew he was right there. I've looked over at the blinds, opened my eyes and there's blinds in front of me on one side, and seen his outline on the blinds. And so with my human eyes at this point, and I guess because they know I can tolerate this, and the blinds almost looks like they were, when you look at a fire and there's that haze, just above it, the rest of the blinds were almost like flapping with this haze, and I could just see his outline. And this was actually the night before his funeral, when I saw it very, very clearly. I've heard his voice, like literally his voice in my ear. So not in my own voice. I've heard him speak. I've heard his mum speak in my own ear as well. And I guess they know that this boundary, even though I wouldn't accept this from another spirit, if I was doing a reading, I prefer to see in my mind's eye, and hear with my clairaudience, with my own voice inside my head rather than outside my head. But it's different with my dad. I don't know. Somehow they just know that I'll accept that because I'm not afraid. The only time that it did freak me out a little bit, I remember waking up in the middle of the night and in my mind's eye, he was down the end of my room near my desk, and I felt like, this is my dad, I felt like he was looking at my desk or something, and I literally was like, Dad, I love you so much, but you are scaring the crap out of me right now. Can you please, just go and chill out in heaven. You can still, contact me and whatever, but you're scaring me because I can feel you over there. And in the morning I went and looked at the desk, and his pen that I'd kept of his was on that desk. I'm not sure if he was like, hey, that's mine, or oh, there's my pen. I don't know what he was doing, but that's the only time that's kind of given me a bit of a fright in regards to my dad. But anyway, he hasn't done that again. So he's listened to that boundary, or my spirit team has listened to that boundary and said, hey, Jono, it's my dad's name. June didn't like it when you did that. Approach more carefully next time. So, there are other boundaries that I guess I have set for myself in readings too, and this is an example of what you can do in regards to those of you that are empathic. So the empathic, if you're not familiar with the term, is someone that feels very strong emotions from other people or feelings. And sometimes people who are empathic, if you identify with this statement, or if you were never really sure about it before, but now you're thinking about it, you're like, hey, I do feel other people's emotions often. Like if someone is really sad, I take that on and it makes me feel really sad. Or if someone is really happy, I bounce off that. So there are so many empaths out there, or people that are super sensitive to feelings or emotions, and they don't know how to deal with this. So empaths is literally a whole nother podcast episode. But for me, what I do when I go out in public is when I used to feel emotions from other people when I didn't have my boundaries up, it could be a lot, because you can accidentally take these on as your own, and you don't want that. You want to, keep your happy vibe. You don't want to be feeling, if there's all these sad or depressed people around you, you don't want to be taking that on. So basically what I do is, before I leave the house, I ask, again, my man, Archangel Michael, to put me in a protective bubble and set the intention. So in the spirit world, it doesn't matter so much about wording. Its intention is everything. You can say this in however it is that feels best for you. I say, when I go out, I am inside my bubble. All of my feelings and emotions are in here. I'm not going to take on anything from anybody else that is outside this bubble. Like my feelings are in here, their feelings are out there. And I only sometimes open up to feeling their emotions now when I'm about to do a reading. So I've set that boundary with my spirit team. I don't want to feel everybody's emotions around me. So put me in my protective bubble, and I do that every time I go out, pretty much, because it used to be extremely overwhelming for me, especially when you open up more and become more intuitive. It can get more full on. So just be very strong with your boundaries, how you will and won't accept it. Now, during readings, I sometimes feel a little bit of perhaps, if there's been a trauma there that they've been through, and I'll feel the pain, or I'll feel grief or loss. But I have actually said to my spirit team, I actually don't need to see it, because sometimes I would see what has happened, or just know what has happened, and it was very upsetting for me too. And sometimes the person doesn't necessarily need to hear about it. They just need it to be acknowledged. And if they want to talk about it, they'll bring it up with me. Like, they can say it. But it was getting too much for me to be seeing all of these crazy things. So with my spirit team now, I have a sign or a symbol for trauma or grief. And I could either see it clairvoyantly, or sometimes I'll feel the pang of it in my own chest or my own feelings, and then that's it. My spirit team won't go any further. I'll acknowledge it to the client, and they'll say yes, and then they can elaborate if they want to. I don't need to take that on or feel it to its full extent. I can say stop at any point if it feels too much. Especially feeling other people's grief. It's a lot. It's a lot to take on, but know that you do not have to. People get afraid sometimes, especially in regards to mediumship. Am I going to see somebody? Are they going to show me something that I don't want to see? At any point, if you experience something and you didn't like it, you literally say, don't do that again. I never want to experience it in that way again, or I'm not ready for that. I'll let you know when I am ready next time. And that's kind of what has happened. I've kind of adjusted my boundaries, and you do actually get used to the weird stuff happening. Now I'm just like, in the middle of the night, I might see like a smoky, this is how I often see spirit, is like a smoky gray type smoke, which sounds really bizarre, but that's just how I see it. And I often see it floating around now, and I'm like, okay, and that's fine. And I'll just roll over and go back to sleep. Whereas, probably even a year ago, I wouldn't have been ready for that and been like, what the is that? Like, no way, no thank you. And just know that at any point, no thank you. And if you are afraid of experiencing something first and then having to say no thank you, if you know you don't want something straight up, write it down in your boundaries straight up. I will not accept grey smoke. Thank you, seeing spirit. So I have slowly gotten used to it. And there are things that, have started to happen more. Like I will sometimes feel physical touch on my body. Like I've felt a hand brushing my arm, or sometimes they've woken me up by pushing me in the back. And I've actually said, that's not nice. I prefer the stroke on the arm, please. They've tried to wake me up sometimes by grabbing my feet. So at this point, because I'm a little bit further down, this doesn't scare me anymore, but I'm just like, I was asleep. Please don't do that when I'm asleep. I don't mind nighttime visitations all the time. If you want to wake me up in that way, the stroke on the arm was much nicer. Or if they've woken me up too many times in the night, I'll say, that's enough, I want to go to sleep. And then that's it. They stop, I go to sleep, or tell me in the morning, and they'll come back in the morning. So, being pushed in the back or being grabbed in the feet a while ago as well would not be something that I would have been able to deal with at that point. But I think they're getting the idea of, I'm okay with that now, but maybe do the touch in a different way. I think that's a bit rude, It is a bit rude. So I actually had a friend too who is a medium now, and she, as a child, used to experience, doors slamming, cupboards opening and closing, drawers opening and closing, and it really made her afraid as a child. And it happened to her for a long time. And then, I think it was months and months on end. And she told me the story that one day she just started screaming because I think the door slammed behind her or something and scared her. And she was a child, I think around 10. And she said, and just started screaming, like, stop it, like, go away. I don't like it. I don't want to experience this again. Stop doing that. I think she literally, as a 10-year-old said, F off. And guess what? It stopped. It never happened again. They were obviously trying to get her attention for some reason, but her spirit team was like, if whether it be a random, spirit that came in and was doing that, or they were just trying to get her attention, I don't know. But whoever it was, her gatekeeper or her spirit team were like, hey, she doesn't want it, stop it. And that's the thing. She was like, if I knew it was that easy, I would have done it months ago. But people don't realize you can tell them. They're your friends. We can tell them, stop. And now, as an adult, she's reopened her gifts and is very, very strong with her boundaries. And she is a amazing, amazing medium, and really has stepped into her life purpose. It does not have to be scary. It does not have to be loud. It does not have to be too much. I've never experienced anything like that she has experienced, because I will not tolerate that. So, what else? I guess your intentions are the main thing. In spiritual work, as I mentioned, intention really is everything. you want to, go and get psychic information, you say, or your intention is, your head is, okay, I'm going in to read someone psychically. Sometimes you want a medium, you might want to go in and practice on someone mediumship. So you would go in with the intention of, I'm going to connect with a spirit now that's connected to this person. If I would like to purposely see a past life of somebody, I will say, or set the intention of, please show me a past life. Or to see a spirit guide, I want to know which spirit guide is there. Who are you and what are you helping this person with? So if you have those intentions and are clear, then this is when it opens up and can be really amazing. And like all of us, we are all different, right? And we all have different abilities, and we all have different ways that we experience things. And this is, some people won't experience any of this at all. Like, they don't need to set boundaries. The spirit teams, I don't know, they just know. And that's because all of us are so different. And this is where it's really amazing to see people open up to the spirit world, because generally who they are as a person and what they're good at as a person is kind of what they're good at when their intuitive abilities open up. So for example, I'm a very visual person. I always have been. I learned through seeing. And as an intuitive, I'm very clairvoyant. I see a lot of things in my mind's eye because that's who I am as a person. And because who I am as a person is generally goes to the good in things, I usually receive the good, like just all the good about the person and what it is and how amazing they are. But then there are some people that have opened up to it who, a lot of bad things have happened to them in their life and they go to the negative. And then so when they read for somebody else, they might just see the negative side. But all of us have good and negative. We all have good and bad. So it's just up to your intention. And this is the thing. I've had people mentor under me that are like, why do I only see the negative things about persons? Because I guess that's kind of who you are as a person, which is not your own fault. But we can switch that up. And then when they do, they're like, oh, wow, I just had to change the intention and go, tell me all the good things about this person. And then that's what they see. The bad things start going away, because how are you going to help somebody if you only see the negative side of things? And honestly, why anyone would want to do this work, I hope, is because you want to help people. So set your intentions properly, and I guess you can't go wrong. Your team is strong. Don't forget that they only want the best for you. They never want to scare you. We're just not used to it. And it does take time, but you do get used to things being a little weirder. You don't have to. You can keep your intention strong. You might even say, some people don't like clairvoyance. I don't like seeing things. Give it to me in, sound. Just tell me. Or let claircognizance, which is the sense of knowing. I just want to know. I don't necessarily need to see things. If you're one of those people who previously has been afraid, but now you feel ready, and you slowly want to open it up, you can just do it literally one tiny small piece at a time. Just know that. Or if it's happened really quickly, too quickly, and you need to slow it all down, just tell them to slow it all down, and it can happen. And I work with people on this. So if you do want to work with me in psychic mentoring, there are lots of different ways that you can work with me. If you look at my website, junemac.com, and get confused, just message me or inbox me via Instagram or whatever. All the links are in my show notes, and I'm more than happy to direct you in the right way or what is right for you. So even if it's not me as a mentor, I would suggest anyone that you vibe with, having a mentor does make things a lot easier. It makes things a lot better. You don't have to go through it alone. There are so many other amazing intuitives who do this work who I could also direct you to. And I don't want to freak anybody out. And let me tell you, there are just as many people who have had some issues with this, but I actually have twice as many who don't, who haven't had any issues with it. We are all different. So I don't want, just because I've spoken about it, that doesn't mean now that you're going to experience it. And this is why I was hesitant to talk about it, because I didn't want to put it in anyone's head. If you go in with, that's not going to happen to me, or nah, I'm not afraid, then that's a really amazing way to go, because then probably nothing is going to happen to you. And nothing really negative besides what I've mentioned has happened to me. Everything else has been amazing. Most experience the exact opposite really of what I've spoken about, but I just knew it was important to speak about, because every time I thought about it, then somebody else contacted me who was like, can you help me? This is happening, or this is happening. I don't know what to do. So I thought, if this can just help, one or two of you, or if it's something that happens down the track and you decide you do want to open up into this world, at least you kind of know now what it is that you can and can't do, or what they can and can't do, and what you will and won't accept from spirit. But I can get you to the point, or there are other amazing mentors out there who can get you to the point where dealing with spirit is beautiful, and you can help a lot of people out there, and you can help yourself by opening up this path. You can experience life in a way that you can't possibly imagine, but it is available to all of us. It's available to everybody to experience life in this way. And the people that I've seen open up to it, they have turned their lives, back onto their soul path. And even for me, it's made all my dreams come true. I honestly could not think of a better job in the world to have. And whether or not you are meant to step into light working, not everybody is. Some people just want to do it for themselves, which is amazing. Everyone that I've kind of worked with has at least ended up so much happier, because now they're following their intuition and they're aligning their life better with their life purpose. When your life is aligned with your life purpose, your life path, or what it is that you're here to do, the happiness just automatically follows. And the way you do this is by listening to your heart. And sometimes our heads are so noisy, we get so caught up with our analytical mind, we forget how to listen to our hearts. And that is something that once you master it, it's completely life-changing. So I guess as an empath, doing this work and seeing other people happy, or if you are an empath and you do decide to do this work and you see other people happy, it's going to make you really happy too. And that's the thing about happiness, is it doesn't have to be yours to feel it. So I hope that this helps anyone who might be worried. And your spirit team are your friend. They love you. They really do. They're here for you. It's their purpose. And what a waste if you don't get to work with them and you don't allow them in and you don't learn to listen. So rather than fear, let's try listening. You can tell them, slow it down one voice at a time, however it is you want to receive it. It is a two-way street conversation. Like just in readings, in readings, if you don't receive the information you like from spirit, you can let them know, like, I don't understand that. Tell me differently. And that's the same with setting boundaries with spirit. Please don't fear. Learn to listen. And I promise you, if you can do that, it will change your life for the better. I'm June Mack, and I wanted to thank you for tuning in to the Fully Woo podcast. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have had you here. You can find me over at junemac.com or on all social media as Ms. June Mack. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much if you could please subscribe, rate, review, and share. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a privilege to be in your ears.